Thank you for being here.
Let us know who the question is to. Thanks.
It's to Supervisor Robinson and Mayor Filner.
Okay.
Split it, please. So this is about 100% renewables, and SDG&E, as we speak, is funding a study to prove their argument that those without rooftop solar are subsidizing those that have it. They've already been rejected by the Utilities Commission on this point, but they're not giving up. Just one example of many are their recent attempt to, place peaker gas plants on us to keep us shackled to a 20th century energy model. Sempra contributed $600,000 to elected officials and political parties just in 1 year. As elected officials, how are you going to play SDG&E so they don't own our future?
You're so cynical.
So Bob, I have the microphone.
Take it.
Not that you need it.
I don't need a stinking microphone.
You ask a really good question, and the mayor and I have a little different persona, and I try to talk with people and find out what makes them tick. And I sat down. You told me you were a bomb thrower, and I was the consensus guy. I get along with everybody. Remember? This was 4 weeks ago. So I sat down with SDG&E, and I said, I really need to understand from your perspective why you do some of these things. And one of the things that I learned is SDG&E does not get credit, nor do any of the utility companies, for residential rooftop solar. And I said, we ought to be going to the PUC and saying you ought to get credit for residential, and then you'd be more supportive of all the initiatives that Mayor Filner and Diane Jacob and I are trying to work on, instead of building these solar and wind projects out in the middle of nowhere, building these massive power lines through our parks to get the utilities where we need it. And so that's just one example. The topic of the peaker power plants, I call it, since I have 5 kids, whack-a-mole. And you whack one down like Bob's predecessor proposed one in University City, 1,700 feet from a residential neighborhood, which shocked everybody, including Councilmember Sherry Leitner. And I said, instead of coming up with all these proposals, we ought to have a plan for the county of what our needs really are. Santa Onofre's been shut down. I've been a very strong advocate, telling the federal government, please do not start that plant until you're absolutely sure that everything has been done, or if you don't need it, don't start it if you can't do it. So, from my perspective and the county perspective, that if you can try to figure out on some of these things how to work together. Now, I'm a strong supporter of looking into this consumer choice aggregation, which would be an alternative means to have utility here in the county. And at the city, they're very interested in getting started on it. And so I think there are a number of alternatives, and the mayor mentioned it best. You now have people in office that not only understand these concepts, but want to do something about these concepts, because they really understand the impacts of decisions that have previously been made that are really destroying our environment.
I guess it's good to have a good cop, bad cop. And I'll let Dave sit down with SDG&E. But, by the way, there were 4 candidates for mayor. SDG&E gave money to 3 of them. One did, I'm not sure which one that was. The day after the election, November 3rd or something, 7th, I get a call from SDG&E. They want to have dinner with me.
What a shock.
They're used to buying off the politicians, and the ones they oppose, you buy them off afterward, right? So I said, look, I'll talk to anybody. You want to talk to me? Come to my office. We're not allowed to give campaign contributions. But I'm not going to give you the kind of access that you sit down in some fancy restaurant and you you know, you buy meals and then you think you have extra access. So it took them, I don't know, 3 months before they decided to come into my office. But I'm free of that kind of money. But look, we got to work with them where we can. And I love you, so we're going to work with you. But a lot of this stuff, you know, when we work through issues, SDG&E and the utilities are, and you know, are at the end of the line. They're the obstacles. I mean, we've run into the feed-in tariff or net zero metering, and you know, this tax that was mentioned. We're going to have to fight them, in my opinion. I'll work with them and try to do as much as I can, but we're going to have a political strategy in all this that will involve the legislature, involve the PUC, and involve the public. I mean, people have got to understand what's going on. And when we try to, we've started the efforts on CCA, but there's a reason why I think only one entity in California in the last, I don't know, century has a public, gotten a public franchise basically, or a CCA. It's because the utilities fight them to the end, to the death. And we have got to organize the public and organize ourselves to fight them. I mean, it's going to, and we're going to have to, by the way, I said when I was elected, it's going to be easy, it was easier to get me elected than to govern. And people like in this room we've got to organize to help us in office and not just to get us elected, because we're going to be proposing things like a CCA. We'll just take that one. I mean, it's going to require enormous education, we've got to go door to door. We're going to have TV advertisements. We're going to have to, have debates. And because people don't understand it, and it's going to have to be a political campaign. And people are not used to running campaigns around a governing action. It's a whole different kind of strategy and a whole different kind of approach. But we're going to have to figure out how to do that. And we're going to need your help on it. Because CCA ain't going to come by just us doing the letters and doing what we have to do. It's going to require a whole political strategy. Lane, would you agree with me? I mean, we're taking the steps we have to do. I mean, I can't believe it. The first step we have to do for CCA, we have to beg SDG&E to give us the data on which to make analyses, and we have to pledge to our death or something that it's confidential data and all this stuff. I don't understand. I mean, why do they control that? They're a public franchise. But even just to get the data to make the argument for CCA, they've got to agree to give it to us. And we're going through those steps, and we'll do whatever we have to. But it's going to take a political strategy to go further than just talk about it. And we got to be prepared to do that. I think we got to work between elections, not just after.
Go ahead.
Just to make sure I really answered your question, we fight the solar tax. We fought the fire fee that they tried to do, and this is why I was meeting with them, because I said, you're really coming out with goofy ideas. And if you don't want to keep fighting the electeds that represent a majority of this county, you ought to really test some of these ideas beforehand. But, on the solar tax, it's wrong, and I don't buy their arguments. It was the whole subsidy was premised on people putting solar onto their homes. So you just have to keep doing it. And I was there with Diane Jacob, with Pam Slater-Price. The three of us were there at the hearing when that original solar tax came up. And then Diane and I at the fire benefit, when they had that tax came up, we were fighting against it. We just got to keep fighting.
So I think that the message here is pretty clear for both these gentlemen. I'd like to give Kevin a chance to say a word. Like I said, he owns real estate. A lot of it, a lot of rooftops. Is that people need to join organizations that are going to fight for this. So what I did was I joined the Sierra Club, because there's 5,000 members in the city of San Diego and 12,000 in the county approximately. And that's political clout. We need to mobilize all those people, get them, away from their weekend walking trips and stuff, which is all great, but get them to support these initiatives So that's what I did. But whatever group you're going to join, think about it strategically. How do we position ourselves now to support these initiatives, which ultimately are about growing the jobs that Peter talked about and reducing the greenhouse gas emissions that Germany is doing at a much more accelerated rate. So I want to let Kevin comment, and then we have a question in the back.
Couple things. First of all, on the school board, I'm in my third year. We've been voting to allocate a lot of our Proposition S dollars to expanding solar panels on school buildings. And now you'll see a lot of them on carports because that's a little bit easier to do. I think about 2 years ago at Claremont High School, we had a press conference and revealed that San Diego Unified is actually the #1 school district in the United States of America for producing the most megawatts of solar power. And that actually helps us lower our electric bill by over $1 million a year. And that's one of the reasons why in this new Proposition Z that was just approved by voters with over 67% of the vote, in that $3 billion bond, I made sure and fought for at least $100 to $140 million of that to go just to solar power. Because we wanted to take our carbon footprint, and right now we create 30% of the school district's electricity in solar, and we want to go to zero. We want to go to zero. We want 100% of the electricity the school district uses to be produced by us. But in terms of more specifically like expanding solar and things like that, I'm a homeowner, and I know a lot of you guys in here probably are as well. And one of the biggest problems to getting photovoltaic solar panels on the house is just that hookup fee. It's ridiculous. I mean, the hookup charge alone is making it cost prohibitive. If you didn't have that, then I think a lot more people would get solar on their rooftops, and then that would help us overall. The second thing that I think is really, really important is that when you do get solar panels on your house, SDG&E buys it at the lowest rate. Why? Why can't they buy it at a higher rate? And I think if you were to do that, then you'd get more ROI or return on investment, and I think you'd have a lot more houses with solar panels on them, and I think that would help with the countywide, statewide, picture, and I think that's really important. There's a couple of other things that we've done in the school district too, I'll talk about later.
So we had a question in the back.
I can't say enough about you guys. We're so lucky to have you. I work in the Sierra Club, of course. They have Run with the Sun program you might know about, which helps facilitate solar power here in town. I'm so grateful to them. We have a homegrown thing here, Citizens Climate Lobby. Marshall Saunders started it 5 years ago. There's now 90 groups, including Canada. Last Saturday, we ran a big conference call with Sheldon Leonard, who is Senator, such a champion of environmental causes. And he talked about a gathering of the clan, of us coming together as much as we can. Because we have so much power. 350.org is another great one. We protested in Coronado when the American Petroleum Institute just recently, sort of the Voldemort of fossil fuels. They're the lobbyists that train. Citizens Climate Lobby, we're going to lobby in June. Jim Hansen's going to speak there. So that's another great one if you guys are interested in it. And I just want to commend you. My son went to Canyon Crest. We have solar panels there. And thank you so much for all the work you do.
I know you're the mayor, but I'm like over here. What if we had, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Supervisor, Vice President, Advisor, what if we had a San Diego Solar Summit that brought all of our organizations together to achieve an agenda, to define an agenda and achieve an agenda? But we need a convener, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Supervisor, because if you convene it, they will come. And if we could do something that was strategic, can you do something like that? Or Vice President, Advisor? Because,
No.
no, what?
I just wanted to say no to you.
Most mayors say no.
I just want to say no to you. Yeah, I mean, we should do that. By the way, it's Dr. Mayor in this room.
I know.
But what I would like to do is have such a summit, but I need you guys to do the work in advance, so we come with a proposed agenda, a proposed countywide action plan that we discuss and then approve there. That is not just have something and everybody feels good when we leave. I want an agenda that we can then take to our respective boards and get approved. So we need you to do, this is called, I'm a professor, we call this rebounding the question. You wanted me to do something, so I'm making it to you. You guys gotta come up with that agenda. I mean, there's, the expertise is here, come on. And then we will then discuss it, amend it, whatever, and then approve it, and then take it to our boards.
All right?
All right?
So? the
Green
chair-
Academy
Write down the
or Aqua Academy, go to work.
comments on that? All right, so we have some other, thank you for that. We have some other questions. There's someone over here and, oh good, they're grabbing for the
I
microphone.
just wanted to
That's a
answer
good
the
thing.
question. We'd be glad to host that at our Platinum Green facility
Great.
in Kearney Mesa. And we'd be glad to work with the city on that, just to up the ante
Thank you.
a little bit.
Thank you so
yeah.
much.
What are you gonna offer?
Well, you didn't let me speak first. I got 12 things we've already done. What are you doing?
After the break, after everybody gets to meet the
He's
mayor.
gonna offer your
and-
platinum
and
facility
supervisor.
to the.
Right. Okay.
Hell with your. He's doing platinum.
All right, so I'm gonna take an action in the Run with the Sun over steering committee that I belong to discuss this in more detail and help it along, and other people can have our contact information, and I if we're interested in doing it, and Greg Chick, our water guy.
Thank you, and as surprising as it
Just to
is, I'm
discuss
not
it,
gonna ask
that's
a
all.
water question. I'm going to, because I've been inspired about this international border issue, and my question is I'm sure you've heard about the agave border issue for the growing biofuels with the agave plants and making border built out of agave plants. That sounds quite bizarre, but I can't pass up the opportunity to ask the question. And if everybody doesn't know about what that is, it's growing a border fence out of agave, which you cannot go through with a 90-mile-an-hour Hummer if you try, and then harvesting that agave fuel, if you will, for biofuel. I've seen reports that show that it can be grown without any water. I got in my water comment, without any water, and it can make very strong biofuel. And Mr. Filner, have you seen the numbers on that issue? Well, please get the information. There's a significant amount of information on that project. It would be international funding, international jobbing, and it would close the border in a sense to illegal crossings, and it would satisfy a very viable market without using water.
So we're gonna take one more question, then we're gonna take a break. Fortunately, our electeds are gonna stay to talk with them personally, right? And you're gonna chat with your supporters here. And then we're gonna come back, and Vice President Visor is going to talk more about the school, and we're all gonna stick around for that, right?
That's right.
Yeah, because he's part of our team, and if we don't stick around for our team, we don't get our results, which is the goal is 100% renewables. Yes, sir.
My question is, in all of the initiatives that you're talking about, you're planning solar, which is great, but what are you doing for energy efficiency? So instead of, just producing more power, whether it's solar or not, are you right-sizing your efforts, and doing some things with energy efficiency for the buildings as well?
Well, that's the first step that we're gonna take in this whole program, and we can't say go solar without, what are we doing from, some things you can do immediately that have nothing to do with you know, energy, but it's just the conservation, it's the efficiency, it's the windows, the lighting. I mean, we're gonna do an energy audit of all of this first, and then decide which buildings you move forward from. I mean, that's how we're looking at it. Rob, is that the best way to say it?
Yeah, reduce before you produce.
What is it? We gotta reduce before we produce.
But it's the EV charging stations, it's the promoting the bicycle initiative. I just rode from Bob's office to my office, and I didn't turn the key to turn the bike on. I rode all the way, I pedaled. The other day when I was at your bike thing, I was on an electric bike and I didn't turn it on. So but we're doing a lot of initiatives like that. And so I think your point is good. However, the challenge that we have here, despite what you hear in the press, our county is continuing to grow. People are coming here, and we're going to continue to have energy needs here in this county. So while we can try to, you know, downsize our consumption needs, it's going to continue to increase as we get more and more people. And as the economy, you know, we got the first briefing on our upcoming budget for 2013-14, and you know, it's a $5 billion budget, and in a lot of growing areas. And we heard our revenues are up. So you know, the economy is recovering. We're still very nervous, and you know, I think it's still very shaky. But you know, things are improving here. So we've got to be smart about that, and that's why we're trying. I talked about, you know, preconditioning new homes for solar and EV charging. You know, you've got to look at the policies that you have. You know, drought-tolerant landscaping instead of grass yards. You know, all those types of activities you've got to look at, and a lot of them are policy decisions that electeds can make, and they really focus on what they want to do. But of course, a lot of new ideas come out of you all. That's where we get a lot of these ideas. So keep those ideas coming. Thank you very much.